Many projects that we can think up now wouldn't have thinkable 15 years ago. Basically, any innovative direction that has come in design came through technology. I think that that's one of the advantages of the fact that we also do commercial work, is because it keeps us informed almost automatically, because that world tends to have more money, it tends to have access to technology often faster or in a more easy way than, let's say, the art world or so. And so I think it's a good influence, technology-wise. And then thinking-wise, a lot of the work that we do in the personal realm, of course, influences the commercial work. You know, as a person, I go to the supermarket, so I'm involved in the commercial work. I go to the museum, I'm involved in the cultural work, and I meet friends, I'm involved in the personal work. So why should I not, as a person, as a doer, as a designer, why shouldn't I be involved in all three worlds as well? It just makes sense. Because ultimately design is a language, and it would be odd that we imply it or that we use it only for one direction. I always felt since a very long time, that these ideas that came out of modernism, namely design should be objective. There should not be a trace of the designer themselves. We should bring in the machine-like systems because it's now a new area. All that stuff was interesting in 1920, but by now has lost all of its juice and became unbelievably boring instead. And as in opposition to that, I would want design to be very emotional and very human and very clear that it comes from a person and that it is made for a person. And it's sort of odd that I would even sit here making these statements because they're so banal. Like, you would think that basically that this is sort of like the lowest common denominator and sense, because so very clearly, let's say, if I call a company and I get an answering machine, I'm pissed. And there's just an incredible difference between you call somebody and you get a person, or you call somebody and it says, for English, press 1, for Spanish, press 2, blah, blah, and you have to fight yourself through. And I think everybody feels that way. I don't know a single person who prefers the automated machine over the real person. So why do we, in printed communication or in online communication, so often pretend that what we do is made by a machine? It makes no sense. Therefore, we're much more comfortable with the human-centric approach. Yeah. I do really enjoy working in hotel rooms. I actually find it often more productive than in the studio, simply because I normally have new impressions, and there is a space far away from home where those impressions are possible. And I'm going to Hamburg tomorrow, and I deliberately chose to go by train, so I have a 5-hour trip there in the morning and a 5-hour trip back in the evening, so I'll be in the train for 10 hours, which is sort of ridiculous for a short visit of a city, but I don't mind it all because I love being in a train, and I love to work on a train. So I have a whole list of little jobs that are already prepared that I'm going to tackle on in the train, and likely I'm going to be if it's not too full, I'm going to be in the dining car, having a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and working all the way. I find that in combination of a forward notion together with a landscape that on eye level flies by and is interesting enough to look at, but not that interesting that it wouldn't allow a continuous thought. I found that ideal. The older I get, the less the new is important to me. And that could be partly because my brain gets softer and I'm just not thinking on that level of newness anymore. And also partly because I think with age, maybe in-depthness becomes more important than brand newness. And even as a listener or as a consumer or as a viewer, I changed my mind on this. Like, I used to hate Lichtenstein, couldn't stand him. Like, I thought, my God, this one-trick pony, like, came up with this idea to do comics, and then he did it for the rest of his life. Now, to the point where we actually said no to Lichtenstein books that we were supposed to design and stuff because I was just not interested. And I just recently saw a Lichtenstein exhibit where he showed, like, anything from the sculptures to the sketches to the paintings to and just perfecting it, which I now very much appreciate. I think I changed my mind about it. Like, when I was a very young designer, I wanted to do new things all the time. And there was even at one time sort of like a desire to basically do a new visual expression for every single project. And that just proved impossible to do. So then I said, okay, then it's okay if we repeat some, but let's have that move forward.